On the final day of the term, the Supreme Court handed down the most significant environmental decision in years. I know you're probably thinking, boring, but I promise you, it's not in the weeds, it's not boring. This decision has much bigger implications. In fact, in her dissent, Justice Elena Kagan referred to this decision as frightening, which is a word justices don't often use. In a 6-3 ruling, the justices said the Environmental Protection Agency does not have the power to reduce carbon output of existing power plants on a wide scale. It's not that the EPA has no power to regulate carbon emissions. This ruling says they just can't issue major, wide-ranging shifts without Congress. Regardless, this delivers a huge blow to the Biden administration's plans to combat climate change. But just under the surface was a much deeper debate over how much authority federal agencies have to issue rules and regulations when they're not explicitly authorized by Congress. Now, if you've ever read a bill passed by Congress, you know they're often written very broadly, focused on big ideas and less on granular specifics. Then those laws are left to the authority and expertise of federal agencies like the EPA or the IRS to put those ideas into practice in the real world by issuing regulations and rules based on their expertise. Well, in his majority opinion, Chief Justice Roberts said, no, federal agencies need expressed and specific authority from Congress to make major decisions like this one. He said, capping carbon dioxide emissions at a level that will force a nationwide transition away from the use of coal to generate electricity may be a sensible solution to the crisis of the day, but it is not plausible that Congress gave EPA the authority to adopt on its own such a regulatory scheme. Congress did give the EPA authority years ago under the Clean Air Act to select the best system of emission reduction for power plants, but according to today's majority opinion, that's not specific enough. To which Justice Kagan wrote, the court appoints itself instead of Congress or the expert agency, the decision maker on climate policy. I cannot think of many things more frightening. And why is she using that word? If you've been following me for any amount of time, you know how difficult it is for Congress to pass anything, let alone extremely specific laws like delegation of specific powers to federal agencies to make specific rules on specific controversial topics. She's saying this ruling could, in essence, paralyze federal agencies when it comes to big issues because Congress can't or won't act.